Sirius XMU Sessions.
Welcome to Sirius XMU Sessions. I'm Jenny Eliscu. I've got Robin Pecknold on the line. Hi.
Hi, Jenny. How you doing?
I'm good. Excited for this performance that I want to know more about. This set of tunes from the new album, because obviously we're doing things differently now, and
Yeah.
people are recording where they can. But also excited to talk about how the album came together. Where did you record the performances we're going to listen to?
These were actually we were able to record this in the same space that we made a lot of the album, using some of the same instruments and the same, some of the same mics. And it's a studio in Long Island City called the Diamond Mine. That's a really small. It's a smaller studio, but they were really kind to open it up for the album and then for these sessions. Yeah.
Nice. So did you have to do like a socially distant kind of setup with the band, or?
Yeah, and then a couple smaller group, and then a couple layers of little overdubs, since it wasn't entirely live, but it was really fun to make the recordings for sure.
Right. So, I mean, that's got to have been an interesting and evolving process just in the months since deciding to put out an album during a pandemic and during this just crazy new situation that we're in, kind of figuring out how to be comfortable in a room playing music with each other and like it's allowed to happen. I mean, have you done a bunch of these kinds of things at this point? Has it been a process you've refined of like, how do we do it? How do we get together for now?
No, I mean, that remains a big question mark to me, because it does feel a little irresponsible sometimes to get a bunch of, I mean, especially with cases rising, to think about getting a bunch of people together for something. It still feels strange. And I think it'd be good to explore remote a little bit more. It'll be good to, rent an airplane hangar and have everyone be really far away from each other. But it remains a logistical kind of head scratcher.
But it must still feel good and have felt good, considering that you decided in the midst of the pandemic already being underway that like, no, I'm putting this album out now, and in fact it must be now. This is the time.
Yeah.
And therefore knowing when you made that decision that it would be difficult to play shows and get together with other performers. So, I mean, does it, when you're able to do that, do you forget for a minute? I mean, it must be a pretty sweet headspace to be able to get into in the midst of all of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, being able to record it and do, many layers of overdubs on a studio album is, during a pandemic is one thing. But to be able to play with somebody else and look them in the eye, it's like, oh, remember this? And it's, I'm excited for that to stop being reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of things, even the weird, like distant COVID version of interactions still feels like so nutritious,
Totally.
in a way, even like the Zoom and the outdoor masked sitting 6 feet apart and having a coffee. Like it's still when it's happening, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what it feels like to have fun. I remember fun. I remember fun.
Exactly.
You're listening to Sirius XMU Sessions with Fleet Foxes. Robin Pecknold is chatting with me. I'm Jenny Eliscu. And you mentioned that these performances were recorded in New York, where much of the album was recorded, but also it's an internationally, this album was made internationally, right? I was reading about all the different cities around the world where different things germinated.
Yeah.
And that it truly started back in 2018, right, at the end of touring for Crack Up.
Mm-hmm.
So where was that? I mean, how did you know it was starting?
That was, I started writing songs on tour during the Crack Up tour. I started Can I Believe You first. That was the oldest thing on the album, and went right into writing more, the next year, and continued kind of traveling around. Yeah, like, going to Portugal for a month, or going to France for 2 weeks, or doing these kind of, very glad I did it now, because I got to do that pre-lockdown and pre-pandemic, and so I'm glad that all that happened. And having taken such a long break after Helpless Blues, I didn't want to do that again, and I wanted to kind of learn, start doing a tour again after 4 years not touring, there was a learning curve there, and I didn't want to kind of forget those things again by taking a big break. So it just meant going right into making more songs. And it takes me longer now as an older person to, things filter through slower as far as songs feeling valid to work on or exciting. Those ideas are a little bit harder to kind of to come to. So it just meant, just having to work nonstop after the end of that tour.
Right, but these different places, Portugal for a month, and Saint Germain, and Aaron's studio in Long Pond.
Yeah.
Do you find that? And I notice you've traveled quite a bit, even just this year and since. Do you find that locations really specifically bring out musical moments? And are there examples from the songs from Shore, especially the songs that you're playing in this session, where the place you were really did, help create the song?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think, a certain finding an unfamiliarity or being in an unfamiliar space, I think that puts you in that, the same thing, like you go on a hike and it always feels half as long on the way back as it did on the way there. Just the kind of way your brain is attuned to your surroundings when you're in somewhere new. I think that's a very creative headspace. And I think that, you're kind of, you're letting yourself get caught off guard, and then some idea will come to you. And, I wrote 2 songs in France while we were recording that ended up being important for the record. Every studio, something came out of it that wouldn't have happened anywhere else, either a song idea or a lyric idea or an instrumental passage, and trying to make something that has variety but it's cohesive. For me at this point means working in a lot of different spaces and then taking the best of that stuff and making it all work together. I feel like that's an easier way for me to find variety than just sitting down at my desk and just bad sacking it with an acoustic guitar into the microphone.
Let's listen right now to Fleet Foxes performing Featherweight on Sirius XMU Sessions.
I caught when we both were young, that the world I want wasn't near enough, all was distant, always all. That war, I'd forgotten how many men might die for what I'd renounce. I was staging life as a battleground. Now I let that grasping fall. May the last long year be forgiven. All that war left within it, I couldn't, though I'm beginning to. And we only made it together. Feel some change in the weather. I couldn't, though I'm beginning to. Though it's all so uncertain cold, all the rafters cracked, all the copper sold. There's a ration back in a manifold if you need it or forgot. May the last long year be forgiven. All that war left within it, I couldn't, though I'm beginning to. And we only made it together. Feel some change in the weather. I couldn't, though was one last way past the miles. One warm day is all I really need.
You're listening to Sirius XMU Sessions with Fleet Foxes. Robin Pecknold is chatting with me. I'm Jenny Eliscu. I know that one of the elements of how this album came together is that the lyrics were kind of the last piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you usually work? And tell me more about how this kind of burst of lyric writing came to you.
Yeah, I think that lyrics are usually last for me because I want the melodies to be really sturdy, and I want them to be less modifiable than the words would be, and so that just creates this kind of Mad Libs reality that you're living in, where you have to be fitting the syllable to the word and then gleaning some meaning in there, and I also kind of like having the whole musical shape of the album done before getting into how to translate that into words, because that's a little bit more what it's like to me, is like, what is this music doing? What's this music saying? What might I have been feeling when I was working on this music that I wasn't even emotionally aware of, or something like that, and then kind of translating it into words from there. And so it makes sense to me that for that kind of process that the words come last, and it's usually been that way. But I'd be very curious to try and start with words. I think I would write very different kind of lyrics if I started with the words.
It's interesting in this very specific situation of 2020 to think about how the lyrics might have been different. Just forget about your own life and personal things, but just like if COVID hadn't hit, like what it brings so many feelings to the surface, I would imagine. And what is it? You were sort of driving around. You did a lot of driving when writing these songs. Where was that geographically?
I would just, I was lucky to have a car in New York City, and I've had a car here for a year and a half, and I would just go on these 8 to 12-hour drives up into the Catskills and then to the other side, go northwest, and then make a big loop back around through New Jersey. Just trying to get as lost as I could, get little breaks from being in lockdown. And yeah, the lyrics really grew out of feeling grateful to have a roof over my head, feeling grateful to be semi-employed, grateful to be born into a kind family and still be able to talk to them, and grateful to have friends. Just all the kind of things that I was taking for granted before lockdown, I just really began to feel lucky about in a very clear way, and that had it not happened, maybe I wouldn't have had those really necessary kind of reflections or realizations, and I would have just written about some let's get down tonight kind of hedonic something or other.
Well, right, or the minutiae. Yeah, I mean, I'm just imagining, because I don't do that kind of creative work, that same kind of thing of making something out of nothing and then finding in the things that are like just me and my, that are really personal, that I'm like, oh, of course there's that in there. But, I mean, yeah, I can imagine, especially just having the time, the combination of panic and gratitude, I think we all felt that a lot. And wow, 8 to 12-hour drives, that's just a massive, that's just driving like your life depends on it. Would you get out and dip a toe in a lake or something?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I put 5,000 miles on my car in like 4 weeks.
Wow.
I drove to Seattle.
Are you okay? So just to nerd out on it a little bit harder, you're driving and you're working on thinking of lyrics for songs. You're listening to the music as you're driving.
Yeah. Yeah. Listening to roughs without vocals, singing gibberish over the top, and then watching words come to me, and pulling over the side of the road and just, writing them down on my phone and taking voice notes. And it was cool. I mean, it was complete opposite of flying to France and recording, or going to Aaron's place and recording. It was
wow. I think next time, if you do that again, next time you need to just get one of those cameras like they have in like the Taxi Cab Confessions shows, to just save it so you can really just have a
I should do a Twitch album. I should make an album on Twitch next time and just live stream the whole making the record. Be like, hey guys, like and subscribe.
You'd be like, I'm gonna live stream the 1 million hours of making an
Yeah.
album. It's Jenny Eliscu and Robin Pecknold from Fleet Foxes on Sirius XMU Sessions, and we're listening to some performances of songs from the new album Shore. Tell me about "Can I Believe You"? You mentioned that that was one of the first songs to kind of to begin in this cycle, but tell me more about how it developed and was executed from there.
Yeah, that was the hook for that song is the oldest thing on the album. I think I wrote that. We did this tour for Crack Up, which is pretty complicated music and pretty complicated tour for that album in terms of there were maybe 4 breaks in the set, and otherwise it's just nonstop music with these crazy transitions. And it was pretty exhausting. It was impressive maybe, but it was pretty exhausting. And so I would just kind of, Can't I Believe You was just this thing I would work on in the dressing room as a kind of let off steam, just sing as loud as I could, and just kind of this simple thing that I was just banging it out more so than this really complex thing. So that was the oldest thing I had, and then it felt a bit like an outlier, but it was so fun to work on it because it just allowed for so many fun ideas, like a weird blast of guitars or this bed of choral vocals that are submitted from Instagram, or a weird treated conga breakdown. It was just a funny song to work on, like just it was kind of a safe space for being a little bit trying to be a little bit ridiculous, which is rare that I allow that state of mind, or has been. So that one was always the most fun to work on the record for sure.
Wait, what do you mean choral submitted by Instagram? What's the deal with that?
A lot of there's this bed of choral voices in that song, and it was constructed out of 400 submissions from people that I got on Instagram last year. And so they sent in like voice recordings of them singing the 3-part harmony. And then we spent like days in the studio constructing this Enya sounding choral bed out of it.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was fun. That was very fun.
Is this album the most that kind of thing that you've done, sort of playing with sound? I mean, I know obviously the Brian Wilson thing is a major moment.
Yeah, there were more samples, more kind of using the internet as an instrument, using my text message Rolodex as an instrument in terms of, asking a ton of people to contribute little bits and pieces remotely because of COVID. Just, little details here and there. And then it was very, I felt more like, while working on it, I didn't really feel like, I felt more like the director or the producer of a movie or something, just thinking about who was cool to feature and cool to highlight. And, that's why there's this really broad range of collaborators on it. I wasn't even really thinking, it was more like, at some point I just thought I was making this thing called Shore, and it wasn't an album, it wasn't I don't know, I just ended up in this weird state of mind where it's like, I'm just making this thing called Shore, and there's all these people that I want on it. And it wasn't really about me as much as it was something I was really wanting to make.
Tell me about Sunblind and how that one came together.
Yeah, that was another one where I had bits and pieces lying around. It started as kind of a Panda Bear style song with this like persistent electronic beat, but it never really went anywhere. And that was the last song to come together for the album, even though it's the first song I sing on the album. I think it needed to come together last because it does tie the record together in a lot of ways and kind of states some of the themes at the top. And that was another one where, I just borrowed a guitar from somebody and was playing it one morning, and that all of the bits and pieces finally came together and the whole song made sense. And I wrote this new chorus, and, the lines about Richard Swift and David Berman and John Prine and Bill Withers, all those lines kind of came out of nowhere. And then it, turned into this, tribute to my lost heroes and this attempt to keep them alive through music, and how powerful that is, how powerful music is for that reason, is this kind of, way of perpetuating memory and perpetuating people's stories and music. And so that was the last song to come together, and I was extremely excited by it because it was like, when the chorus of that song hits in, it's kind of breaking like 10 years of tension for me, where it's like, it's a pretty tense up until the chorus, but it's also been pretty tense for a while before that, for me as a person, before that song got made. So for me, it's really, I don't know, I feel the emotional payoff of that song in this pretty deep way.
All right, let's get back into the performance, and then Robin and I will continue talking in a bit, and there's a Nina Simone cover to look forward to as well. But right now, Fleet Foxes with exclusive versions of Sunblind, and first, Can I Believe You?
John and Bill, for every gift lifted far before its will. Judy and Smith, for Berman too. I met the myth hanging heavy over you. I loved you long, you rose to go beneath your sun.
It's Jenny Eliscu and Robin Pecknold on Sirius XMU Sessions, and we're listening to performances of songs from the new album Shore, but also a Nina Simone cover. And I want to talk about this song and about Nina specifically, but also, as you've mentioned, you know, whether it's in the lyrics of Sunblind or in the artists that you featured, friends of yours and artists you admire throughout the album, there is a lot of that kind of acknowledgement of influence and indebtedness to great artists of past and present. Was there kind of a wave of deciding that that was something that this album needed to include? Like, when was sort of the moment that you felt you wanted to open up to displaying that kind of influence?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that can be that feel like a must avoid earlier on in one's career.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's actually been kind of insane to watch my mindset about that change, because I completely relate to that, where in the past I would want to sound as uninfluenced as possible, or any mention of influence I took as a personal slight, even though it's obviously you're always riven with influence. And I think the kind of cute, this will sound kind of cute, but when I was fixating on the fact that it's the fourth album, then I started to think about it as four, and then I thought about it as just FOR. And so then that was why I wanted the first word to be four. And then four, you know, when you're thinking about what are you making music for, you know, what's it for? And who is this for? And are you doing it for yourself? Or are you doing it for somebody else? And I find I get a lot more energy out of thinking I'm doing something for somebody else. If it's a tribute to someone I admire, if it's even just writing a song about or for a friend of mine, that there's more, I get more energy from that at this point than thinking I have some, you know, deep inner turmoil to express or something. And, you know, it takes some confidence to let go and be like, yeah, these are my influences. This is what I want to perpetuate. This is the space I like to be in, you know, musically, and then, you know, thank those people for all they've done and given us, you know.
So talk to me more about Nina Simone specifically, and when did you first begin to hear and appreciate her music?
I got into Nina Simone maybe 7 years ago. A lot of the live records, especially the Montreux performance. Obviously just such a powerful performer, singer, interpreter of other people's songs. You know, the most kind of singular individual. That's such an admirable thing to get that. I don't know, to get somebody who embodies that so much.
Yeah, and also it's like I can't think of very many artists who you can, even if you consume a tiny bit of what they've made, like their intensity is like apparent from, I mean, you know, for listeners, if you've never experienced any of Nina Simone, anything, just like consume 30 seconds of her talking or her singing or a cover of a song, and it's like you're like, whoa, there is like you say, like a singular intensity about it that it makes you want to know more and makes you like, what is that? How is that a human being? You know,
Yeah.
there's like certain artists who are like that, where you're like, that's just a spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of George Harrison, her 10-minute version of My Sweet Lord, I've listened to that dozens and dozens of times. It's just this totally hypnotic.
I've never heard that. Holy shit.
It's great. It's on Emergency Ward, which is a live record. It's just incredible.
Oh my God, I'm gonna find that. Robin, thank you so much for connecting to talk about
Absolutely.
Shore and about this performance. And what's the plan for the early part of next year? Oh yeah, that's the thing we should talk about before we wrap up, because is it still in the offing that you and the guys are going to record some new songs next year? Or this year? I guess this will be airing in 2021,
Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
2021 will be an active recording year, I believe, and hopefully there will be more involved. There'll be room for more involved performances. Fingers crossed. but I definitely feel energized to keep recording for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Robin. I hope I'll see you again somewhere in the world.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers.
In the morning, when the moon is at its rest, you'll find me at the time I love the best, watching rainbows play on sunlight, pools of water iced from cold night. In the morning, it's the morning of my life. And in the daytime, I will meet you as before. You will find me waiting by the ocean floor, building castles in the shifting sand, in a world nobody understands. And in our morning, it's the morning of my life. It's the morning of my life. The minutes take so long to drift away. Please be patient with your life. It's only morning and you're still to live your day. In the evening, I will fly you to the moon, to the top right-hand corner of the ceiling in my room, and we'll wait until sunlight, pools of water iced from cold night. In the morning, it's the morning of my life. It's the morning of my life.
Sirius XMU Sessions. Stripped down performances and the stories behind the songs. Hear them again whenever you want with the Sirius XM app, free for most subscribers. Download it today and start listening outside the car.